And we're live, guys. We did the AL East already. Kind of the points of these videos to hopefully give a couple of you guys a little bit of entertainment. Shout out to guys like Brian Spencer, Nick Ryan, who are encouraging us to make videos just to have a little sports to talk about in what can only be described as the great boredom, I guess, because it is getting. I mean, we are down to the nitty gritty for things to do.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder what it's going to be like when we look back on this in however many years. This is unprecedented. And you mentioned something at the end of the last video that I don't want to just let pass about the confusion and the mixed messages. I think that's the worst thing ever. And I just, man, I hope that we can get through this because I think that, I get, the arguments for both sides. I'm certainly not educated enough to make a decision, and my opinion really doesn't matter, as, a lot of people think their opinions matters, but they don't. Hopefully the people in charge, can make the best decisions. I know that in Ohio, I'm really confident in the leaders that we have. So at least that's something, man.
And for everybody who thinks they understand what's going on, go watch Pandemic on Netflix. And every 5 minutes when you realize they bring up a point, you're like, oh, I never even would have thought of that. Just realize you, just like me and just like you, we're not qualified to speak on this. I have zero medical training. So no, essential oils is not the answer right now. Let's just, hopefully, like you said, people can get in front of this. We can make some wise decisions as a culture, as a nation, as a world.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I will get back to talking about something that I feel like I understand a little bit better, which is the topic of sports, and most specifically, how we feel the AL Central will finish this season. And just like the last division, I think the easiest thing to do is just take a look at the teams on the bottom. And I know you're not a big Royals supporter, because why would you be? But I'm going to stick with the Detroit Tigers and their pathetic lineup to finish last again.
Let's look at their lineup before
Okay.
we just, because I know they added it's not anyone great, but CJ Cron, Scope.
I mean, sadly, those guys are better than a lot of what they had last year. Last year, we were joking around. Is your best player Nico Goodrum? Now you can at least say it's maybe Jonathan Scope, who had one good year.
Yeah, what's up with Michael Fulmer?
I have no idea.
So I think he must be hurt, obviously. Yep. Listen, the team's not good. I just don't know if it's worse than the Royals.
All right, let's go check out Kansas City real quick. We can make our picks right there, starting at the bottom. Here's my thing with the Royals. I just like their offense significantly better. You know what I mean? I like Mondesi. I know you were big on him as well last year. I like Whit Merrifield, Jorge Soler, power hitter, Hunter Dozier. Just a much better offense in my money.
Yeah, you're right. No doubt about that. I mean, even a guy like Franco, he's got upside. So
yeah,
I'm with you. Salvador Perez back. The Royals actually aren't as bad as I thought. Their pitching staff isn't good, but
no, it's terrible.
Their lineup's pretty good. I mean, right now their lineup is comparable with the Indians.
Yeah. Again, there's some decent players on there. Alex Gordon will always play Gold Glove outfield, and he'll have his ups and downs at the plate. But I got to stick with Detroit finishing last, and then I'll put in Kansas City in fourth.
So I think Detroit's definitely last. And Kansas City is I wouldn't be surprised to see them better this year.
No, they still having a terrible pitching staff, though.
True.
I mean, there's just nothing on this pitching staff to get excited about.
No, they don't. And that's the problem. You're right. I mean, yeah.
Okay. So the helpless Tigers, who, at least with Kansas City, you have some things you can be excited about. With Mondesi could be a stud someday, right?
Yes.
I like Hunter Dozier. Soler turned a real corner last year. Whit Merrifield is a solid player. When you look at Detroit's lineup, there is just nothing to get excited about. Kind of like Baltimore, where you're not even close to what looks like a solid rebuild.
You're right. Kansas City's definitely much better than Detroit. Detroit has a lot of Baltimore. Detroit and Baltimore are similar.
Oh, yeah, this is a bad team. All right, so then we move up into where are we going to go? Because we seem to think that the last two teams who were significantly worse than the other teams in this division last year will remain in these same positions. Again, it's baseball. Things can clearly change. But then I think I'm with you on this one. Like, this should be a race this year with these top three teams. I know you're really big on Chicago moving forward. If you could only do the one bet, there are no odds right here. And assuming that we rely on fourth and fifth Kansas City, Detroit, how would you rank if you could only bet on them? Minnesota, Cleveland, and Chicago.
This is really tough. I think all three are really close.
Agreed.
It's really tough.
Let's take a look at the Chicago White Sox lineup because you're big on them, but I still think gun to head, I would bet on them for third, only because while teams can take jumps, I struggle to see them being 20 games better this year and playing similar to what Cleveland did. Now, again, if they play much better, that'll eat into Cleveland's record a little bit, and the Twins could obviously take a step back. But I think gun to head, I would still pick Chicago third.
So I have, like, oh, man. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for this. I've been thinking about it. I guess gun to head, I would still pick Chicago third too. I just think they're I like their chances of winning the division, like more than Toronto's. I mean, I think they're right there.
I get that. And as far as like the pitching staff goes, Lucas Giolito had a run last year where he looked like he was an emerging ace. And then, he came back to reality a little bit, but he's a solid young pitcher.
Very solid young pitcher with upside. I love them getting Keuchel. I don't even think that Keuchel is like that good. I mean,
locker room guy.
Yeah, man. And he brings it every time he's on the mound. He's the type of guy that, his best stuff isn't even that great, but he gets by when he doesn't have his best stuff, All
right. So last year, Giolito went 14-9 with an ERA of just over 3.4, solid whip of only 1.06. That's really, really good. And he had that stretch where for a while he looked like he was about to wreck the league. And again, when he came up, what's that?
I was going to say he went into Houston and had one of the best starts of the season.
Right. And in 2017, when he first came up, I mean, he looked really good for a while. Had not a very great 2018, but he's a 24-year-old young man. He's one of those guys that you can see with like the Blake Snell from 2 years ago, where in the second half of the year, he just flat out just went out and dominated. Don't be surprised to see that again.
No doubt.
They do get weak after that, though. Again, like you said, you like Keuchel as a locker room guy, but, he's a far cry from what we saw to him his Cy Young season.
No doubt about that. I think that, after that, I wouldn't call it weak, though, because I think that a guy like Ronaldo Lopez has upside.
Agreed. Who is Ronaldo Lopez this year, right? I mean, this is a guy who last year had some very good starts, and then at other points, man, you were winning big-time DFS money by stacking off of him.
Exactly. And the other guy that they don't have on here, which I mentioned, earlier when we talked about the White Sox, is Michael Kopech, the trade for Chris Sale was Moncada and Kopech for Chris Sale. Kopech got hurt last year, and he's one of the best pitching prospects in the minors. A guy like that is very volatile in baseball. You just don't know what that guy's going to be. Could be not good, or he could be really good right away.
So this is another team, like we talked about with Toronto. There's definitely upside to be had here, and I get why you're so excited about them. And I got in my fantasy baseball draft the other day. We actually did it. I think guys were just bored. I mean, Jose Abreu in this new lineup, assuming like Mazzara and Encarnacion and like maybe Jimenez takes a step up, Moncada continues to improve. Just that solid, to quote you, cog in the machine type of player right there. He can bat 300 this year with 35 home runs and 120 batted in.
No doubt. And a guy like you didn't even mention right there because
Grandal.
Tim Anderson. He's a guy that we've talked about. He consistently goes under the radar. He had a great year last year. This lineup, has a ton of upside. Madrigal is one of the better hitting prospects around. This lineup, man, I like what the White Sox are selling right now. But because of their pitching staff, I'll still put them third for now. This guy is, from Cuba,
Yep.
Supposed to sign him to a big deal. He's projected big things. So this lineup has a ton of upside.
For sure. And this is a team that you could see down the stretch they probably have some pieces they could deal. If they're playing well this year and they add a legit number 2 type of starter to this team, that could be huge.
You literally just took the words out of my mouth. And a big reason I was going to say that, we talk about these teams like Tampa and Cleveland that don't have money. The White Sox have money. More money than those teams at least. And I'm so with you that they will, like you mentioned, Encarnacion. I mean, if they get good years from Encarnacion and Mazzara, watch out.
Yeah, I mean, again, like Encarnacion's not the guy from a few years ago. He
No,
still hit 34 home runs last year.
exactly. I mean, and you're just plugging that in. Like they've this is a team with a lot of upside. They've got their lineup is really good. Their pitching staff has question marks, and they're going to need Ronaldo Lopez to be good if they want to make a serious run. And I'm not ready to count him in on that yet.
Well, and again, Dallas Keuchel, he's not holding out this year. He was fine for Atlanta last year. I know he said he's not what he was when he won the Cy Young, but he overachieved that year. Who's Dylan Cease? He's another guy. You can see him being better. Gio Gonzalez is a fine number 5.
Yeah, I mean he's fine. He's another
very
guy.
blah, but he's what I mean. This is a guy who's been up there in the top 5 for Cy Young voting at least twice by my memory. So he's not a scrub to have at the 5th.
Agreed. Yeah, their lineup has upside. Their pitching staff has upside with question marks. The only reason they're third here, the other two teams are good.
Yeah, they are good.
None of these teams are like elite, but all 3 of these teams are good. I mean, the White Sox weren't there last year, and I agree with you. It's hard to just give them like a 20-game jump, but what you also said is right. They will eat into each other. And the other thing about the Twins that I'll say, like, I don't love their pitching staff.
No, you're not going to love it. We like Barrios, don't love him. Odorizzi had some moments last year. Who is Kenta Maeda? He's definitely had some ups and downs. Pineda, Homer Bailey. This is another team where their pitching staff seems, all the names. You've seen all of these guys with potential to be better than they've ended up being, and they've all had a series of ups and downs. So this is another team. I could see Minnesota taking a big step back.
Same.
I could also see them being really good. And if you get the best of a couple of these pitchers, this offense is going to put up runs. That's not questionable.
The offense, we talked to the White Sox have a real good offense. The Royals, this offense is the best in the division.
This offense could be the best in baseball. It has that type of upside.
Yeah, it's really good. I still have them second, though, because I think the Indians' pitching staff is just that much better.
Okay. I can get on board with that, but let's talk about this Minnesota Twins offense for a little bit and just how good it could potentially be.
I mean, you look at that, like if Buxton plays well, like leading off or wherever he's hitting, you got such proven guys in Donaldson, Cruz, I mean, Carver, Polanco, Kepler. It's loaded.
Mitch Garver, as the catcher, won the Silver Slugger last year. He had 31 home runs, drove in 67, RBIs. He hit 31 home runs last year in 359 at-bats, or 311 at-bats. That's incredible. That's 1 every 10.
Yeah, he had such a good year, man.
So, again, I would not be surprised to see him take a step back, but they've also got some upside players in this lineup. Like, for example, Miguel Sano is a young man who's got as much power as anybody not named Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. And who is he this year? Because he's been a series of ups and downs his entire early portion of his career. We've seen him at points look like a really tough out. And then we've seen points of his early career where you're like, this guy has got a hole in his swing that makes him in really easy out. He hit 34 home runs last year. There's a lot of pop in that bat. But it's definitely been a real roller coaster ride. He's never played more than 116 games in the season. But he's a guy that at the end of the season, if you saw him with 40 home runs, you're not surprised by that at all.
No, and that's what you talked about, like, in baseball, like if a couple of these guys like Sano, if Sano picks up and other guys like Garver,
Buxton, like you mentioned.
Right. If those guys are really good, then the Twins, could be the best team in the AL. Or if those guys aren't, they could take a big step back. Interested to see what the Twins, bring this year now that the expectations are much higher for them.
Agreed. This is a lineup that, and I just want to talk, like, you're a big Nelson Cruz guy. And, this guy's been doing it for a long time now. Just, pigeon him or place him into that fourth hole right there. Expect your 35 and 100. Josh Donaldson proved last year to me he's not done.
No, freaking Eddie Rosario, who I didn't bring up. He's awesome. This team is loaded.
Yeah, Kepler's a really solid player. And
Yeah.
if guys like Buxton and Sano were to reach their pinnacle this year, because we've been calling for Byron Buxton to start wrecking the league potentially any year, and we've seen him get injured and he's had some ups and downs. Like if Byron Buxton were to turn the corner this year and be that all-star caliber offensive player to go with Gold Glove type of center field defense, like look out league.
Surprised they didn't. They still need another pitcher though.
Yeah, for sure. But the same thing with the Chicago White Sox, though. What if
Yeah.
all of a sudden at the break you're capable of adding a legit like number one or a number two or something like that? Because Barrios is another guy. We've watched him pitch towards contact a lot more the last season or two, but he's a good young pitcher.
Yeah, he's solid. Like he's not an ace, but he's rock solid.
Right. And you may not need aces on this team with how many runs they can put up if the offense comes through.
Barrios is a number one, but he's not like an ace.
Yeah, a weak one, though.
Yeah, exactly. Agreed.
But he's still probably 26 years old.
Yeah, he's got definitely room to grow still. If he picks his game up, you're right. I mean, this team is good.
25 years old, okay. And again, 3 straight years with an ERA under 3.9. He's a weak one, strong two.
Agreed. Very strong too.
Okay.
Who do you think's better, like when healthy, Paxton or Barrios?
At their best, Paxton's a more dominant pitcher. But if I had to like pick a guy that I felt safe with, I'll take the health of Jose Barrios because this guy's thrown 32 starts back-to-back seasons. The best ability is availability.
Agreed.
But again, if I had to go out and you had to like bet on a no-hitter or a Cy Young season, give me Paxton because at his best, he's untouchable.
Agreed.
So let's move you over to your Cleveland Indians, who finished second in the division last year. And let's talk about their offense for a minute because this is another team. We know you got a legit stud in Francisco Lindor. I have no question marks right there, right? Like that guy is a top 10, if not top 5 player in baseball, correct?
Yeah, no doubt. He's one of the guys right after Trout you talk about wanting to build around. I mean, he's all that.
Played shortstop. And then we get into some question marks.
Oh, yeah.
While we have a lot of faith in Clevenger and Shane Bieber, let's not act like they have the experience and resume of, Max Scherzer and Steven Strasburg. They have the same upside, but I can't trust them quite the same.
Okay, agreed. So you want to start with their staff or their lineup?
Well, I mean, let's start with their lineup then. Okay, and we love Lindor. But who is Jose Ramirez?
It's a big question mark because this lineup is another one like that has a lot of upside if these guys play their best. Who is Jose Ramirez? That is one of the biggest questions for any team coming into the season.
No doubt. I mean, this guy had some really, really great moments over the last couple of seasons, but struggled mightily for a lot of 2019 to the point that you saw a dip in home runs. You saw a dip in stolen bases, probably because he wasn't on base nearly as much. This guy finished third in the MVP voting last year. He did not even get votes last season. He looked extremely human.
He was awful at the beginning of the year, if you remember. Awful. He did pick it up, though, which is encouraging. He wasn't
that's encouraging.
He wasn't amazing, but he definitely showed signs. So I'm hopeful. I'll say that. I mean, when he's at his best, I mean, he's a for sure all-star, one of the best hitters in the division easily.
So we'll have to watch what he does this year. That's a guy that you can kind of, he plays a lot of third base, but you can move him around a little bit if needed to be, which is a nice asset to have in your back pocket. So I think, is Jose Ramirez like a real number 2 running mate with Francisco Lindor, or isn't he?
That's the question.
Then we get into your boy Carlos Santana, who you mentioned this multiple times last year, being a Cleveland guy. Santana had a really bad season for Philadelphia. He was not good. And I know he ended up hitting 24 home runs that year, but he batted .229. Last year, took a huge jump back into being a very good baseball player. Not a great baseball player, but a very good baseball player. Batted 50 points higher, hit 34 home runs. I mean, if that's the Carlos Santana that we see again this year, and I don't see any reason that it shouldn't be, maybe the batting average takes a little bit dip because for his career, he's only a .250 hitter. But 30 home runs, 90 to 100 RBIs, he's just a solid piece.
Yeah, he's a solid cog type piece, man. I'll always be a Santana fan. He's a guy that it seems like he'll hit forever, when he's wearing a Cleveland uniform. So happy to have him back, in Cleveland. And he's just a rock solid, middle of the order type bat for us. He's nothing, special. But when you have Lindor and you talked about Ramirez, he works there. And going right below that, man, I like Cesar Hernandez, and I know you do too.
Yeah, I think he's another good, solid player, a little bit underappreciated for what he does. I like him in the two-hole personally,
Same.
and I think he works right there for the Cleveland Indians. I think your big question marks come into the outfield then, because you got a variety of guys right here. Even looking at Franmil Reyes, who we trust to hit for power. But does he hit for power in bat 220, or does he hit for power in bat 260?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I'm high on Reyes, but he's another guy. You're right. I mean, there's definitely question marks. Who is Reyes? Now a year more acclimated in Cleveland, has seen the pitching. The pitchers have also seen him, though. So we'll see, monster spring before all this happened, which we don't,
It doesn't mean a ton, but it doesn't mean nothing.
I mean, you'd rather have that than him have an awful spring. So it's a good lineup for him, being in an AL team in a good ballpark. And then similar type of questions for Mercado, who at points was really good last year.
Mercado, DeShields, and Santana, Bowers, Naquin. I mean, Bradley Zimmer. There's a lot of guys here that you don't love, but there is a safety in numbers. Like Jake Bowers is not a guy I feel like we can trust, but if all of a sudden he came out of nowhere and broke out of his shell this year, I mean, this is a guy that was, raved about years ago.
No doubt about that. And, I like Domingo Santana. I'm a Domingo Santana fan. But there's a reason that, a lot of other teams passed him by. He strikes out a lot. I'm not going to be surprised if, one of the younger guys takes the job. Luplow, who crushes lefties.
Yeah, it's not bad to have a platoon guy in there.
I've always been a Santana fan, though.
Yeah, he's a former Milwaukee Brewer, so I know this young man well. He's a big kid at 6'5", 220 pounds, and people forget, before the Kane and Yelich editions, this guy played everyday outfield for the Milwaukee Brewers, hit 30 bombs in 2017, batted 278, drove in 85 runs, and stole 15 bases. So he was a very good player. Now he is 26 years old, so he's kind of entering the prime, or what would you think would be the prime of his career. Hit 21 home runs last year in 121 games, so he's a good player. Not great, but good.
Yeah, and we'll see. Maybe he can have a career year, because that's what you need from guys like that.
Yeah.
It's more likely he doesn't, but if one of these guys can have a career year. I mean, same thing with Delino DeShields. You're right. Who's he?
I don't know. Again, that's the thing. There's big outfield question marks for the Cleveland Indians, but they do have a number of guys that you feel like could emerge, could potentially play up to their potential this year. But the only really safe piece in their lineup right here, well, two. I trust Francisco Lindor to continue to be an MVP type of player, and I trust Santana to walk out there, bat 260, hit 30 home runs, drive in 90, RBIs, solid number 5 hitter. And then after that, who the hell is Jose Ramirez? Does Reyes take the next step? You got a lot of question marks. But then we move our way up to the pitching staff. And again, I don't trust Clevinger and Bieber the way I trust Scherzer and Strasburg. But these two guys have all the potential to be right up there as the best 1-2 combos for starting pitchers in the league.
And you look at this division, I think, they're easily the top 1-2 in the division, by far. I don't even think it's close with anyone else.
Well, unless Giolito pitches like he did for moments last year, and then whoever their number 2 is. If you saw a Keuchel reemerge or some of the young pitchers you talked about. But yes, if I had to bet on a 1-2 combo for starting pitching in this division, I'm definitely putting my money on Clev and Bieber.
And the other reason, kind of as a tie-in to the pitching staff, we didn't even talk about, and I've mentioned him a couple times, Roberto Perez. Not that he's some great hitter, but he was good last year, and he's one of the best defensive catchers in baseball. And the Indians do the little things. They've got a great manager in Francona. I like how they're run. I trust their organization. As far as their pitching staff goes, they no longer have Corey Kluber, but they obviously thought that Kluber was done. So
what's up with Carrasco this year? Because that's a big thing right here. Because if Carrasco is not himself, then the pitching staff overall is very good up top, but weakens significantly as it goes down.
Carrasco's he's like Jose Ramirez. Because if he's the Carlos Carrasco from, anything but last year, then this pitching staff is one of the best in the majors. If not, then they're going to need, the Plesac's and Savales of the world to continue to get better, which is definitely no sure thing. But if you've Carrasco as that guy, I mean, if Carrasco's how he pitched, for his entire career before last year, he's, most teams, he's a very good number 2 in the league.
How healthy is he? And again, this will depend on coronavirus when we start playing.
Supposedly he's healthy.
Okay.
I know there was some injury concerns coming into the year. Other than that, let's click on him and see what the deal is. I'm sure ESPN will give us a nice summary.
Yeah, I think you're for a few days with elbow inflammation, but no structural damage about 12 days ago. So assuming the season starts at some point, probably not something we're overly concerned with.
Right. I mean, you never know. And it's scary because he was bad last year. He obviously had the bout with leukemia, I believe it was. So maybe he's never the same. I don't know how that stuff affects the body. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And he's not young anymore.
No.
I mean, by starting pitcher standpoint.
He was very good. I mean, you know this. He was very good going into last year, though.
I mean, we're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight seasons with an ERA under 3.7.
Yeah.
Striking out a solid number of batters. He's a good pitcher. And if he goes back to this, then you're 1, 2, 3 combo, and we get what we expect out of Bieber and Clevenger. I mean, it's very, very good.
Very good. You got 3 guys that if they all pitch to their, ceiling are number 1s potentially. So that's where the Indians are going to need to win. Their lineup isn't as good. They've got upside, but I do think that maybe they're being discredited a little bit. Because other teams like the Twins and the White Sox have gotten better and the Indians have kind of just stood pat. That doesn't mean that the Indians can't be just as good. They've been very good every year. Last year was the first year in a while we didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah, I do think that if I had a gun to my head and I had to bet this division, I would bet on it to repeat.
Okay.
But I say that with very little confidence on the 1, 2, 3, because you're really starting to sell me on the Chicago White Sox. And reviewing that offense, that Twins offense could arguably be the best in baseball.
No doubt could. God, this is getting me so hyped for baseball.
God, I'd love it to start. Who knows what's going to happen. But now, if it came down to the postseason, though, that's where I think the Twins are built better for the regular season.
They don't have the pitching up top, and their bullpen isn't even that good.
But I think they're going to mash all regular season, win a bunch of games. But then in the postseason, if you ask me, do I want a bunch of mashers or I want to run out Bieber and Clevenger, I like the Indians' chances in the postseason to win a series significantly better.
Same.
So there is that. And then the White Sox will be that wild card. So I like it to repeat, but not with a great amount of confidence. And I expect that you've definitely got me really thinking about the Chicago White Sox this year. And again, if these Indians, if Jose Ramirez goes back to being an MVP type, hitter, then they could be better than the Twins easily.
So after looking at both those teams, who do you think you like better on paper, the White Sox or the Blue Jays?
The White Sox.
Yeah, I do too.
I can count on Grandal and Jose Abreu to be solid fixtures in that team. There isn't anybody on Toronto that I really trust quite yet.
For sure. I'm with you. And I think they're also in the divisions are kind of similar actually now.
Yeah, they're not too far off. So, all right, guys. Well, that's what we got for the AL Central. Again, thumbs up is always appreciated, and we will get into the AL West here momentarily as well.
Thanks, guys.